I suspect that this evening the vPub might be a little bit, just a little bit quieter than usual. And if anybody's trying to work out why, I suspect it's because there are swathes of barflies, whiskey botherers, exciters, enthusiasts descending upon Glasgow for the weekend of Glasgow's Whisky Festival madness that happens every year. There's a whole bunch of activities planned. I can mention it briefly, but anyone that's going already knows what's happening. I'm here to hang out with you because the vPub remains the priority. I'm here to hang out with everyone that couldn't make it to Glasgow this time, this year. I'm looking forward to it as always. And I'll see you in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the vPub. Welcome to another Thursday night. Yeah, I do predict that things are going to be a wee bit quieter, and that's obvious because I just nipped out for a quick errand tonight on a Thursday evening, and I went into the Bon Accord, and there's a bunch of people already in there. Lots and lots of faces that you might normally expect to be in here hanging out from time to time, and they are just kind of getting settled in and starting their celebrations of the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend. Over the course of the next few days, there's lots of events around this community, around specifically this channel, this community as well, but a much, much bigger experience is happening there. The main catalyst being the annual event that is Glasgow's Whisky Festival, which it's 2 halls, 2.5 halls actually, in Hampden Park, the National Stadium, just on the south side of Glasgow. And it's full of exhibitors, whiskey exhibitors. All the great and the good are there, but it's just a fantastic gathering of whiskey, of community, and of fun every year. Really excited. And that event, that catalyst that happens every Saturday, that's the gravity pool. That's why everyone's here. And the events that I kind of organize around the festival weekend, I will never, ever organize an event that clashes directly with the festival or the arrangements around the festival. Because I want people to be able to, I don't want to compete for seats and things. I want people to be able to hang out with each other at all the events and have a good time. So the day before the festival, there's a session called the Under the Table Tasting, and that's about under the table whiskies. And that's 7 hosts are coming together to share drams in advance of the festival. There's going to be, it's going to be the biggest one yet. It's going to be in excess of 90 of us there. Tomorrow, running from 2 p.m. And then afterwards, we go for a bit of dinner after that. And hopefully the sensible folk will kind of meander back to their bed for an early night for the big event that is the festival, of course, on Saturday afternoon. And then everyone goes for another dinner after that. There's bus transfer from the festival to another dinner out. And hopefully we're mindful enough to, while we go back to the Bon Accord to relax together and have a nightcap and things, you know, at some point we have to go, right, we've had enough whiskey for today and head home. That can be tricky. It's very, very tricky. But I think we're pretty good. Professional sippers, right? We're pretty good at knowing our limits and things. And then the event that I probably look forward to most, I would say, is the Sunday gathering, the Aquaviti Blind Challenge, which is a sit-down structured thing, of course, team game. It's very good fun. Then afterwards, we just have a kind of community event, a bottle share, and just kind of go into the later hours of the evening, relaxing with each other and having some downtime and conversation and chat. And I really, really look forward to it. Lots of stuff happening around that. Everyone's traveling to visit distilleries, to go to the attractions, you know, the main whiskey attractions, the retailers, the pubs, all of that stuff. And then even after the festival weekend, some people have tours and plans to go on to do other things afterwards. So the Glasgow Whisky Festival is doing huge things to bring people into Glasgow, either domestically from Scotland, from further afield down south, from the rest of the United Kingdom, from Europe, from Asia, from the Southern Hemisphere, from all of the Americas. It's incredible. It's just this amazing kind of catalyst, this inspiration, this reason for us to decide that we're going to have a wee whiskey weekend. I really, really do look forward to it. This year is obviously, we've scaled things up, so it's taken a big chunk of energy in order to put everything together. All of these arrangements, they're not easy to do, but every time we do them, we enjoy them. I'm not going to dwell too much on the Glasgow thing, because a lot of you are not able to travel, of course, not this time. But maybe in the future you will be able to do so. Maybe in the future, whether it's that event or something similar to it, you will be able to travel. I'm here with you tonight, like I am every other Thursday, and the weekend will take care of itself. But it has inspired me to really decide to dedicate a vPub on a topic that's been close to the top of the list for a long time, and that's specifically whisky hospitality in all its forms. That is, of course, the distilleries and the visitor centres, of course, is the ability to pick up whiskies that you might not otherwise be able to do wherever you are from. So it's therefore also true about the retailers, about the pubs, about the whisky attractions. It's true about the landscape. It's true about all of the potential tourism that whisky can inspire in everyone. But I want to talk about my experiences of it, and I need to caveat everything tonight by telling you it's how I feel based on where I am in my location and in my spot on my kind of whisky exploration journey. My journey did start with visiting a distillery. There's absolutely no doubt that that's the case. I don't know if it could happen in the same way today, but maybe we'll talk about that. We'll get into that. But I feel like things have shifted, and I feel like they've shifted for very understandable and natural reasons. But I feel like they have shifted far too far. And you know what I'm going to talk about, but it's not enough for me just to sit here and complain. What I want to do is celebrate the distilleries that are getting it right. And forgive me if I critique some distilleries where I think they're getting it wrong, even when they are distilleries that are very dear to our hearts. In fact, you could add and argue that it smarts a bit more when it's a distillery that's dear to us, and we feel like they're getting something critically wrong when it comes to realizing that pilgrimage, that journey to where the product is made, the source, if you like. Anyway, before I get into all of that chit-chat, this is a regular vPub. This is a regular Thursday night, despite all the craziness that's happening in Glasgow right now as we speak. I hope you're all having a good time already. We go ahead. So we're going to do what we always do. I'm going to jump into the lounge, the slightly depleted lounge, and welcome some of you, dear, beautiful whisky folk and dedicated barflies. Good to have you all. Good to welcome you on a Thursday evening. Great to see you, Roy, says Drew from Arizona. Drew, I know you've made it in the past. You're not here this year, my friend, but it's wonderful to have you here in the lounge with us. Nice to see you, Drew. I hope you're keeping well. Rob Halford is here. He's coming up, but he's probably not left yet. I'm descending on Glasgow as we speak, making this train journey all the more bearable and the weekend all the more exciting. Fantastic. You're coming up tonight, buddy. I'm looking forward to welcoming you tomorrow. Handshakes and hugs at the ready. Justin Wan is saying, good evening, everyone. Couldn't be in Glasgow this year, but just as happy to be here. You were here last year, Justin, and I know you will be in the future, my friend. Gino is saying, evening, Roy. First vPub in a long time. Busy summer. I hope you're well, buddy. I'm very well, Gino. And I hope you and yours are too. I've welcomed you in Scotland a few times, my friend, and I look forward to the next time. Helen is saying, had a pre-Glasgow Whisky Festival gathering in the Weetun with some amazing barflies. Thank you, Helen. This is what we should be doing, getting together and having these wee gatherings and things. And I would like to double thank you for turning up here in the vPub, despite all the distractions and attractions that's happening outside of it right now. Thank you, Helen. It's wonderful to have you and Andy here, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you on the weekend for your first festival, right? You've been up here many times, but this is the first festival weekend. Whisky Weekend Dram Harrow saying good evening, Aquavite. Have a great weekend. I'm looking forward to it, Harrow, and I'm sure that in the future, if there's anything of note, I'll be able to share it with everyone. MJ Rodden is here saying evening, Barflies and Roy. Sorry, MJ, I'll get that comment back. Yeah, he said, sorry, not sorry to miss out on Glasgow Whisky Festival, but I'll be at our other national stadium. And if something historic occurs, a special bottle has to be opened. Slantia. Fantastic, MJ. Listen, it's wonderful to welcome you here. Maybe we'll get a chance to welcome you in Glasgow soon, eh? Rob Smith is saying, this sounds like a lot of moving parts, Aquavitae. Rob, you have no idea. The parts that you imagine are going to move quite nicely and dovetail and kind of the gears that are just going to click and turn together are sometimes the ones that get stupidly stuck for silly reasons. But we always kind of think it out and make it work. A lot of moving parts. I've got a wee army of helpers and things, Rob. We get through the weekend and it's just great fun. Cesare the Fly Mucha saying, good evening, Roy. What's your glass? Well, I have two drams actually sipping alongside each other. And the reason I've reached for these are bog standard 10-year-old 40% ABV whiskies. One of them's 40%, one of them's 45.8, which gives away exactly what it is. And these were actually the first Scottish distilleries I ever visited. The first Whisky Hospitality I ever encountered. We may have a reason to talk about that. Tim Pells is saying, good evening, Roy. And all you barflies, hope you're well. Good to see you, Tim. David in Portugal is saying, good evening, what are we doing wrong with our Whisky Hospitality? Frightening people, sharing things way too complex, way too challenging, too soon, maybe not going to the beginning to lead in. There is some truth in that, absolutely. But I want to make a differentiator at the outset. We are not talking about Whisky Hospitality from the perspective of whiskey geeks. That's pretty much what's happening this weekend in Glasgow. There's no doubt that that's been the inspiration for it. But I'm looking at a kind of a wider, kind of more kind of zoom out, take a step back and look into whiskey and imagine all the different experience levels, ages, levels of means, nationalities, everything, everyone that's coming into whiskey or coming into Scotland and they have an opportunity to explore whiskey while they're here. Going to have similar dynamics in Kentucky, in Ireland, and various other places across the world. But this is the vPub, so we're going to focus on it from a Scotch whisky perspective because I'm very close to it. It feels like there's rarely a week goes or 2 weeks passes and I'm in some kind of distillery someplace. Eric Cunliffe in Canada, good to see you, buddy. Saying slancha to all the barflies in Glasgow. I know you'll be feeling it, buddy. I know you enjoy being here, but you and Renee will be back again soon. Nice to have you, and thanks for your support as a barfly. Another barfly celebrating 6 to 8 months, along with Eric's 52, is my pal up in Speyside. Enjoy the weekend, barflies, and I'll see you in March. Shame you couldn't make Glasgow this time, buddy, but I'm looking forward to seeing you in March for the Independent Spirits Festival. That's kind of the bookend. Whether you want to bookend summer or whisky season in winter, we've got those two festivals, right? The anchor points. One in Leith in the east of the country and one in Glasgow in the west. Sugar Kitty's bought me a dram to kick things off. You superstar, Jeff, thank you so much. Be sure to wish Scotch Down Under Ken a big happy 50th birthday. The new day has begun down under and he's hitting 50 with some epic bottles. Ken, Scotch Down Under, my Australian friend, my welcome to the 50 club friend. Mine was 5 years ago, Ken. I'm going to raise a wee glass to you and say many happy returns, Ken. I hope that your 50s are even more energetic, healthier, and brighter than your 40s. That's the way it should be, fella. Happy birthday. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Sugar Kitty. I hope our pal Ken gets a hold of that. Bruce Bernard is celebrating being a member for 45 months, saying have a great whisky weekend, everyone. Thank you, Bruce. Jeff Whiskey, 19 months, he's saying cheers, Roy, to the hostess with the mostess. Thank you, Jeff. Henry Blake is saying I'm a member, celebrating being a member for 24 months, and saying all started with a gifted membership. Thanks. Henry, that's so cool. That's so cool, and thank you after that gifted membership for sticking around and continuing to support me, like my pal Steve A. Good to see you, Steve. Celebrating being a member for 67 months. Met Steve a couple of times in Texas. He's saying, wow, over 5.5 years as a barfly already. Steve is very much appreciated. All you barflies that come in here and join the YouTube membership means I never need to go to YouTube for ads, mid ads, end ads, starter ads. It doesn't matter. There's no ads on Aquavitae content, and there hasn't been for a number of years, about 5 years now, thanks to people Like Steve, well, a few years, 5.5 years, that means I've probably been ad-free for about 6 years then. Fantastic, Steve. And you also got access to some wee Barfly loyalty badges and channel-themed, whiskey-themed emojis. Thank you all for your support. Just as it jumps. Come on, chat. Here we go. I've got you back. Whisky Games Matt Bishop, who's exhibiting this year. Hi, Roy. I'm always astonished at the distance Barflies travel to come together at times like this. Me too. I hope that it's going to be interesting for you to be on the other side of the table this time, right, Matthew? I hope you have a great festival. Jim Whiskey Novice is in saying, nearly there again. Can't wait to see you, Jim. Looking forward to it. Happy travels, eh? Sandra Fazzolari is saying, ciao, Aquaviti, sending a happy Glasgow Whisky Weekend to everyone. Sandro, you'll be here sometime soon. Chris Banks Wildlife is saying, hi, just wishing you and all the barflies an enjoyable weekend at the Whisky Festival. Lots and lots of chat coming in. We're still super busy, despite the fact that so many people are in Glasgow. Arnie Tigers here, Donald Stewart, Rob Smith. I'm going to try and interact with you as much as I can, because at some points tonight, I'm going to be literally asking you for your experiences of Scottish whisky hospitality. Whisky Liberation Front Lee J is on his way saying, evening round barflies, quick highs, I got to get up at 3:30 to get to the airport in time for my flight to Glasgow. Cheers all. Good to see you this weekend, Lee J. Looking forward to it, buddy. Happy travels up the road. I hope there's no delays. Doing all the drama, Arnie saying, hello, Roy, and all you amazing barflies. I can't even start to describe how buzzing I am for this upcoming Barfly Fest this weekend. A lot of people with a lot of excitement. It's wonderful. I really do look forward to it. Hello, Roy, Aquaviti, and all the folks in the chat. He says, Molasses, good to see you, Mike. Hope you're keeping well. And Keith McDonald, hard time catching things live with my infant. Cheers, all. Cheers, Aquaviti. Cheers, Keith. I very much know what you're talking about. It's very difficult. I wish I could suggest that it gets easier as they get older. It just gets a bit different. Okay, Henry Blake is celebrating being a member for 24 months. Sorry, Henry, I did catch that, didn't I? David Hong has bought my wee dram, saying we'll try to make Scotland eventually to experience the so-called whisky hospitality. Well, David, when that happens, I hope I'm here to shake your hand, buddy. Shane Brogan is saying, is celebrating being a member for 35 months, saying we'll watch the replay after dinner with a Glasgow dram. Perfectly on theme as well. There might be some Glasgow whiskey poured a wee bit later, Shane. John Coogan is saying, evening Aquaviti, having a cracking weekend with all the beautiful whisky folk. Really need to get my backside up next year. John, if you're in the UK, especially by saying up, should be a wee bit easier. You know, I shouldn't say that, because even if you're in Scotland, taking a trip away from your responsibilities, your work, your family, booking holidays, the cost of travel, cost of accommodation, you know, it doesn't really matter if you're quite close or if you're, even if you're local in Glasgow, there's costs involved. There's investment in this. I understand it completely. And when we talk about everyone getting together, and it kind of rolls into the topic that we're speaking about tonight, we have to recognize that we are privileged. We have the means, the wealth, the wherewithal. We have the support of whatever we're leaving, whatever responsibilities we're leaving behind, with people to cover that for us. And the ability to make these trips and travels for a very self-indulgent thing, our hobby, our passion, our love of whiskey. I have the feeling that there are far too many spots in whiskey right now that are set up in such a way that that feeling, that sense of gratitude to the pilgrims isn't always there. I also feel strongly that there are a bunch of places that you can walk into and you feel like you're welcome. You feel good to be there. They make you feel like they are grateful that you have made the journey. And the difference between one and the other is tiny when it comes to effort and cost. It's not that I will talk about price a lot tonight. I'll talk about the cost of things a lot tonight. But the difference between these two things, it's remarkable how little of that is about money and everything to do with ideologies, sensibilities, attitude, culture, aspiration, brand. It's amazing. And you can the Venn diagram has a very little overlap here but we'll talk about it tonight. Doodle the Drama is saying, I'm travelling to Glasgow Whisky Festival all the way from Bishopton. Okay, some of us have a commute rather than a trip, right? And he's saying it's a treacherous journey indeed. Bishopton is just ever so slightly to the west of Glasgow. Michael Wood is saying, Roy, I picked up a bottle of Edredar 2 inaugural yesterday, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts. That's in the tall round. It's a 7-year-old, I think. I had the tiniest sample of that, and I've still not bought it. Why have I not bought a bottle of that yet? It's on my radar, but I got to try a wee sample of it, and immediately I thought, I mean, it's on the label, it's not my style of whiskey that I would be spending money on for personal consumption, but when I tasted it, I thought, that's a beauty. And also, it's a marker of arrival and a very, very decent price. More thoughts. I'll probably find a way to feature it on a future vPub, Michael, I hope. Gordon Fraser saying, hey, everyone, looking to seeing you all. Where are you now, buddy? Are you down here yet, or are you still up on the islands? Falscraft is saying, tonight I'm settling myself with a task to find out the difference between the classic laddie 50% ABV and €60 and the 2013 Edredar cast strength 11-year-old 60% and €95 because they are very similar. That's very interesting, class. Very interesting indeed. We are geeks after all, aren't we? Welcome, everyone. I hope you're all doing fantastically well, and I hope you've got something lovely in the glass, regardless whether or not you're in Glasgow to sip it. The vPub is international. It's just nice that when we can take that virtual realm, the only thing that's virtual about the vPub is the vPub itself, right? It's a virtual space. But the people, the experiences, the whiskey, the moments, the exchanges, the friendships, there is nothing virtual about that. It's all very, very real. And when we gather and we make these trips, we get a chance to realize that that's the case. And it really is one of life's affirmations, privileges, whatever you want to call it, treats, pleasures. I absolutely love it. Ralphie and I were chatting about that very thing. He said, you really, really enjoy getting together with the people and the socializing aspect and everything. I can see how much you enjoy it, and it's the energy it brings in me. It brings a positivity. Yes, you become tired. You have to be careful how many whiskeys you enjoy and how many hours you spend out and all of these things. But even after you've recovered from the spent energy, the mental health improvement, the recognition of how good our fellow humans are and how much we are different from each other, yet whiskey has brought us together in a way that makes us see the things that we have in common with each other. I think it's rare to find those things today in our world, in our lives. Whiskey is one of those things that lets us do that. So we tend to go about things in a very, very positive, optimistic, enthused and invested way. So when we make pilgrimages or journeys or spend money, not on the liquid delivered to us or taken home by us, when we spend the money to travel to a spot, there is a responsibility on the hosts at our point of arrival to help us have a good time. And if they can't help us have a nice time and enjoy ourselves after the pilgrimage, they should certainly not be putting anything in place to hinder us having a nice time. Let me go right back to the start of my journey. A lot of what I say tonight might be nostalgia. It might genuinely be nostalgia. But things were quieter when I got into whiskey. Whiskey was on the up and up. It was becoming more and more popular. And I was introduced into whiskey from an Italian colleague, the Luca story, the famous Luca story. In 2005, we went to Glengoyne together. Now, years before that, I'd been to Bushmills. Years before that, I'd been to Talisker. And even years before that, I'd been to Bushmills in Northern Ireland. Before that, I'd been to Jameson. So there's a kind of cookie trail of distillery visits where nothing really clicked. I didn't really decide, ooh, I love this. It wasn't until in 2005, Glengoyne, I was 35 years old, maybe that's the point, but I remember feeling very comfortable there. I remember feeling like it was a space that I could enjoy. I could fit in here. This is fascinating. Glengoyne captured me. Everything clicked. It was wonderful. I've been to Glengoyne since, maybe 50 times since. I think I'm exaggerating when I say 50, but I wouldn't be exaggerating by much, actually. I've visited Glengoyne a lot, and I've witnessed how it's changed over the years. Drift changes, incremental changes. Not massively. It looks the same. Some things about the visitor centre, the small things about the layout maybe has changed, but generally speaking, it's the same. But the vibes have changed at Glengoyne. One year to the next, you won't spot much of a contrast. But if I think about my experience back in 2005, I'll talk about it tonight. There is a huge contrast, and I think it's a marker of a change in contrast that we've seen across the whisky industry generally. Focusing on this discussion topic with the idea of visitor centres. But there is an overlap with other attractions. Thomas Dam has bought me a dram to celebrate being a member of Barfly for 37 months. Thank you, Thomas. And he's saying, have a great weekend, all. I'm a little bit envious. I know if we talk about FOMO, if everybody's getting together and having a party and a lot of people aren't here, listen, this happens every year, Thomas. That's all I'll say. It happens more than once a year because we've now got the Leith Festival in March as well. Jimmy Legg is saying, I'm not making my third trip back to Scotland next year because of whiskey. There are just so many quality people that I miss so much that I have to come back. This is the thing. This is the thing. Jimmy is not one for whimsy, let's be honest. He brings a lot of cutting comments, humour, insightful wit. But he has discovered how cool the whisky community can be. I think that that's available to everywhere that embraces whisky, whether they make it, whether they sell it, whether they open it and pour it, whether they educate about it. That ability to connect with the open side of people's minds, the sensory thrill of it all, the people connection. I've been doing this for, the vPub's coming up for 8 years old, more on that later. I've been doing this a while now. At some point you would expect that I would get tired of marveling at such a thing, but I don't. Jimmy Legg's been here a few years now, and he doesn't seem tired of it either. So when we're talking about hospitality tonight, we need to keep that in focus. I've mentioned it before. If you focus on the people first, then the thing that creates whatever the product is, right? The thing is whiskey, people are first, and then people and whiskey come together to create events and places and opportunities. So that's the thing that comes last. Focus on people, preserve the thing, and it's positive. This doesn't seem like a difficult thing, but I think what's happening today is people are focusing on the thing. I built this thing, so therefore it is the best thing. No, your thing cannot exist without whiskey, and your thing cannot exist without the people. Your thing is the lowest priority. It is absolutely reliant on the other two things being in place. That's lost everywhere right now, right? Sorry, everywhere is the wrong word. That is lost in far too many places today. So I eventually fell in love with Glengoyne. Glengoyne's in this glass here. And I have to be fair to Glengoyne. I'm sipping this 10-year-old. This is the whiskey that I bought at the distillery that day. No, this bottle, that was obviously 20 years ago now. It was a bottle of Glengoyne 10-year-old. It was 40% ABV, and I fell in love with whiskey over that bottle. It took me a long time to get through it, to understand it. And while I was drinking through it, I was actually picking up other bottles to taste alongside it because I had been told that no two whiskies taste the same. It's quite amazing, right? It's because it's true. It is actually true. But it's also ironic that the closer you get to 40% ABV, and anyway, yes, they do start to get a wee bit samey. But I fell in love with Glengoyne's 10-year-old. I think, controversial opinion here, this 10-year-old in my glass tonight from Glengoyne is every bit as good as it was 20 years ago. This is 40% ABV whiskey, but I have to say I think it's been put together with some sensitivity. It feels a wee bit vanilla, literally vanilla and figuratively vanilla. If I was to go into tasting notes, I think you can probably understand what kind of tasting notes I might be sharing with you. You guys aren't running out there to buy Glengoyne 10, and I understand why. But truth be told, it remains a fantastic wee product to get another Roy or another somebody that comes in with a slightest bit of an open mind and say, and have them hooked. It still has that ability. Stephen Wilson is saying, Aquaviti, there should be a Nobel Peace Prize category for bringing the world together through whiskey, and I would nominate you. Thank you, Stephen. The world's a wee bit of a stretch. Well, it's not a stretch if we consider the reach of the vPub, that's right. Alistair McPhail talks a lot about his role in diplomacy and things. He's involved in a lot of these really quite critical border discussions and things like that, and how many little anecdotes he's got where he's used whiskey as the mechanism to start the bonding. And I find it fascinating, Stephen. So yes, there is, whiskey can be a potent thing, and not just in the sense that it contains ethanol, right? My pal Eric saying my first trip to Scotland was in 2018, and I was a wee bit nervous, especially driving on the other side of the road. But I went to the Aquaviti School of Driving, and it turned out great. I remember that wee session. I drove shotgun with you for a little while, right? Eric, I'm sure you settled in no problem. And I remember how much of an emotional experience you had that trip. And I remember how you were already, in every sentence you spoke, it wasn't about the here and now or the build up to it. It was about what you're going to do in the future. You'd already decided before the end of that trip and started planning your next trip back again. And I know you've been back a few times since. Mike is saying, after my first ever driving in the UK, my wife and I happened upon Deanston. They took pity on my stressed out demeanour and took such good care of me. I will forever be a fan of that. This is what we need, care. We'll get the rest on catch up, says Mike Hill. Good to have you in, Mike. Forever how briefly you can make it, buddy. Saying early train to Glasgow tomorrow. Thanks for all your efforts in organising the weekend, Roy. Mike, you're going to just start to bump into people as you go and as the weekend builds. It's going to be amazing to have you, and I think it's the first time I'm going to meet you this weekend. In the meantime, Mike, thank you for your dram, my friend. It's very generous of you. I'll see you in Las Vegas. Cheers. Alistair is one of the men I miss the most, says Jimmy Legg. I'll see Alistair this weekend. Sorry, Jimmy. He's a good guy. So I think that despite what I'm just about to say about Glengoyne, the whiskey that's been made at Glengoyne is still pretty fantastic. I can see why I fell in love with Glengoyne, but I want to go further than that. I want to talk about the fact that when you go to Glengoyne today, that the feeling of being ensconced and welcomed is inevitably diluted by something. And it's not because of the people that work there. It's not because of any changes or significant changes or upgrades to the visitor centre or anything like that. When I first visited Glengoyne, and this is not necessary for it to be a good experience, but I think I'm right in saying that the tour was free. If it wasn't free, it was buttons, £4, £6, something like this. When we arrived and we realised, immediately we said, can we pay for something more where we can get a few drams? And she said, no, you still get a dram. You get a dram for that tour. It's just, so they were giving you a tour of the distillery and things, and then a dram in the tasting room. In the end, that's what we did. That was the tour that we took. We didn't upgrade. I don't know. I can't recall now. It was 20 years ago. I don't know if it was because of timings, availability, whatever it was. We just joined that tour, and we we had the single dram. Now, in the visitor centre at that time, they had various other ways for you to try lots of other things if you didn't want to upgrade on tours or whatever. But it was either a very, very small price, and if you were willing to go and have a tour of the distillery without a dram, people in the comments can correct me if I'm forgetting this or misremembering this, but it was free. You could tour and look at the distillery for free. That, I don't believe that exists anymore. But that wasn't uncommon back in the day. There used to be just, yeah, you want to see what we do? We're super excited about that. We'd love to show you what we do. And you come. Hospitality. That feeling of that they want you to be there. However, over the years, I don't know how much it is to even tour Glengoyne now. I don't know how much the minimum tour is. Could we do that right now? I hate to pick on Glengoyne, but it's a distillery very, very close to my heart. Glengoyne Distillery, visit Glengoyne. £90 minutes, £38 for a collection tour and tasting. So £38 is the entry. Here we go. We've got an inexpensive one here. 75 minutes for £22 per person for Glengoyne tour and tasting. When you get 2 Glengoyne Highland single malt whiskies for that. So, okay, this is still accessible. This is okay. £38 too high, but if you're getting a couple of drams, £22, it's 2025. I have to be realistic about things. That's not, it doesn't feel abusive to me. It's fair enough. But if you want to buy anything or pick up anything, yes, they've got the 10-year-old, the charmer that it is, but it's more expensive in the Glengoyne shop than it is anywhere else. And it might be because they're adhering to RRP. But if they're RRP and no one is selling at RRP, then that probably suggests the RRP is too high. And I don't want to tell people how to run business or whatever, but this is genuine feedback. It's not just my feelings. It's not my sensibilities here. I don't pay these prices at Glengoyne anymore. I just don't. I did in the past. Everything is expensive. I was horrified to find a 12-year-old being sold as a handfill for £155 for a 12-year-old whiskey, Glengoyne from Bourbon. I mean, when I saw the specs, Glengoyne from Bourbon, I'm into this, £155. It's just like, what? This is absurd. I don't know what the handfill is right now. It's probably changed. It's probably not that, but I guarantee the prices haven't got any better. Literally the most expensive Glengoyne you can buy, regardless of what metric you measure the liquid by, age, cask maturation, is at Glengoyne Distillery. Now let's rewind back to that point of you turning up at that distillery and they say, yes, we'd love to show you around. How does that make people feel? I was in company recently and someone pointed out that their company that they know are offended that Macallan can be purchased at European supermarkets. They think it shouldn't be. They think that Macallan should be an exclusive brand and they want Macallan only to be sold to them. They want to feel like they're getting the best and it should be the best. And if they're putting it in supermarkets, it cannot be the best. It's going to be cheaper. This absurd way of thinking, this entitlement, this privilege that potentially comes with wealth or distancing people from other people of lesser means. Sorry if I sound equally as elitist on the other end of things. I don't mean to. Whiskey is not that space. It is not that space. It should not be that space. Whiskey is literally the thing that brings us together. Whiskey is the most humble of drinks. Wine is made from grapes, right? And from that, you can distill it onto wonderfully complex and fruity things. And you're not going to be surprised that you get fruity things from grapes. Whiskey is the product of excess grain at a farm. Grain, barley grains. It's absurdly humble. It was made by farmers. It was made by people in caves and forests and hilltops and glens and hidden places. It's literally the people's drink. To take it away from the people has now been happening in front of our eyes for decades. And there are a bunch of brands out there that have disappeared. And if you want any evidence of how that's disappeared, visit Macallan today. Visit Glengoyne today. You're not going to get that same thing. And in fact, if you go to Macallan today, I don't know if it's still happening, but there's going to be a barrier up and somebody will visit you in a high-vis jacket and a Bentley and tell you that no one is allowed in without prior arrangement. I can't. That's not whiskey for me. That's not. So when I get asked why I don't talk about Macallan, sorry, Macallan's not interested in me. No, Macallan has no interest in me. Until recently. Macallan has now brought out another product. And it's for a Macallan, I have to say it's remarkably well priced. And I'm talking about Macallan that's branded as Macallan. We have to be very, very clear. There's a lot of Macallan out there that you can buy and drink. It's just you can't hold up the bottle with Macallan written on the label. It's crazy. But there's a new Macallan coming out. They're calling it the 110 proof. And it looks like it's going to be something that we can maybe, it's just about within reach. A 12-year-old, 110 proof. Now, don't get excited. 110 proof, for reasons that are beyond explanation, is American proof. It's a Scottish product, but they're putting 110 proof on there, so perhaps it's a North American targeted product. It's 55% ABV. They're having to redevelop and reposition because they've pushed it too far. And if somebody is meeting you at a barrier in a Bentley with a high-vis jacket telling you to go away, you will go away and you will never return. That is not whiskey for me. But more than anything, on a little kind of nationalistic note, and I apologize for it in advance, it's not Scottish either. That's not how we are as a nation. It doesn't, everybody's different. And just because you're Scottish doesn't mean that you're going to behave and think in a certain way. But there's a general vibe in Scotland that we are outward looking and welcoming and warm and friendly. And we don't like people to feel uncomfortable. It doesn't feel right. It feels wrong. And I don't care about those people that don't want their Macallan to be sold in supermarkets. I really don't. I would like us to realize that we're in a situation now, we've got 155 distilleries, the majority of which, believe it or not, have visitor centres. That's a lot of people going through those places, potentially. And if they get it right, they will endear their brand, they will endear whiskey as a concept, and they will endear Scotland to everybody that passes through the door in some small way. If they get it wrong, it's a toss-up. And if they are really clumsy about it, or if they're literally getting it so wrong that it's just about the short term, they will be switching off more people than they switch on. Where do you think we are in 2025? Arnie's saying we visited Glengoyne in 2024 and we didn't buy anything. That's true. That's actually bad to hear that, Arnie. But what's worse is I sat in a bon accord with somebody one day who had bought an 18-year-old, and they had also bought the distillery exclusive, and they were sitting there in the sober, warm, welcoming surroundings of the bon accord after the giddy, rose-tinted spectacles of the visitor centre experience at Glengoyne, and they were feeling betrayed because they were realising how much they'd paid for that product versus everything else they'd bought on their trip. They loved Glengoyne. It was their reason for travelling here. And they felt betrayed. I witnessed it firsthand. Whisky Weekend, sorry to pick on Glengoyne. They're not the only ones. Whisky Weekend Dramas say no cheap handfills anymore. The best cheapest chance is at Cadenheads and Springbank and Glengyle. Aquaviti, I suppose. I'm going to talk about that. Burkey73 saying, good evening, Ron Barflies. Great to catch a live show. Hope you're all well. Cocairn 16 in the glass in Slancha. Good to have you, Burkey. I hope you are well. I am okay. I am certainly very, very well and looking forward to this weekend. Pedro is saying, there's Pedro in Brazil, saying farmers use grain for bread, when in excess for beer, when in excess for whiskey. That's what it really is. Absolutely. It is the most humble thing. It's amazing to me that just the amount of flavour, if it is completely natural and done properly, right, that humble grain is one of the most complex flavour creators known to man. I don't know. Okay, it's got a lot to do with how it's made. It's got a lot to do with the maturation vessel, of course. But Peter Hunt is saying, if you travel to a distillery, spend your holidays traveling to see these places, the fact that they expect you to pay 3 figures for a bottle you can only get there is obscene. Big up to Glenmurray. A huge big up to Glenmurray. They've got their feet absolutely on the ground. I unfortunately do not have any Glenmurray distillery only bottles to share with you tonight. But I hear you and I agree with you, Peter. Falscraft is saying, I took the €70 bottle at Tullamore, considering Irish taxes and so on. It's a good price. They're William Grants, so it seems they kind of know something about hospitality. And they say William Grants are kind of riding they do a lot of things quite well. They do a lot of things very well. They get a couple of things. And it's always when they try to this uncomfortable kind of premiumization thing. There's a lot of Aquaviti gift memberships getting thrown around, and it's very, very generous. From George P, sharing out 10 Barfly memberships. And Cesare is sending an Aquaviti membership as well. Andrew Pears is celebrating being a Barfly for 60 months. Good to see you, buddy. Have an amazing festival weekend, everybody. And next year, fingers crossed. Stephen Reed just sent 1 Aquaviti gift membership as well. Stephen, thank you. Cesare, thank you. George P, thank you so much for it. Just goes to random people in the chat. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you all. Righty-ho. Jimmy, like, I'd much rather spend my time in pubs than distilleries. I get that. I really do. And it's about connecting with the people and sitting with the people, and that's what the pub is perfect for, Jimmy, right? If you love whiskey, Scotch malt whiskey specifically, you'll quickly realise that the production process is very, very similar from one place to the next, remarkably similar. You know, grain, more or less these days, grain comes in. It's already pre-malted. It gets mashed on site. It gets fermented on site, and it gets distilled on site. And then the variation can depend on whether it gets matured on site or tankered away or whatever it is. There's lots of variables after that. But what you get to do when you become really geeky is you start to focus on the slight differences between one site and another. And that becomes quite interesting. And then you focus on the different flavour, and you can start to understand a wee bit more about where the flavour might come from and why it's a little bit different. You can start to get a bit kind of dreamy and whimsical about coastal locations maybe. But certainly you can start to understand why something might be peaty or something might be not peaty because of infrastructure and railway or because of fuel sources and all of these things. It grounds you and it brings you closer to the product in a way that a pub or a tasting flight or a festival might not be able to do. I always talk about the idea when you go to visit a distillery, by all means, get busy in the distillery, you know, understand it, do the tours, all of that, but try and walk around the environment a little bit. If the distillery is located in a town, maybe even try and stay overnight in that town and go into the pubs and bump into the distillery staff in the pubs and things like that. It really, truly is a privilege. Anyway, things are quite quiet in whiskey right now, aren't they? I mean, I'm going to bring up a banner, and these banners are here to help me do the chapter markers afterwards a wee bit easier as well. But I want to talk about why this hospitality thing is critical today. I had the privilege of working for a company for over 20 years, based in Milan. And in the latter years of working for them, I was working for the CEO, which is a gentleman called Gigi. Gigi, I know that occasionally, you've popped in to see what I'm doing and what I'm all about or whatever, but I'm still here. And I still think about you often. Gigi was quite inspirational in a lot of ways. And the way he thought about things was always fascinating to me. He thought about things in ways that were a little bit different. And one of his things is he always talked about how probably the most lucrative times for you to change and develop and grow as a business is when times are tough, when the demand is low. He talked about that being the time when your voice could be at its loudest. You're not servicing contracts and customers and doing all of these things. So rather than lay off your staff or trim things back or be beholden to somebody, he was in the fortunate position that he could mobilize his business in a way that he felt was most appropriate. He liked the idea of taking advantage of things when they were quiet in order to build towards the next upcycle. That just makes sense. Consider what I've just said about Glengoyne. Things were quieter when I went to Glengoyne. Things were certainly more accessible. Things were cheaper. But it was 20 years ago, so the whole whiskey verse was quieter. So when we see this downturn that we talk about today, the whiskey doldrums, if you go back to the capacities and the amount of distilleries operational in 2005, you've only barely scratching 100 distilleries back then. We're at 155 now. The enthusiasts, the knowledge, the people who love whiskey, the impassioned people, that is only continued to grow since 2005. The internet, the ways of communication, the way of sharing knowledge, sharing experiences has exploded since 2005. We're talking pre-social media, of course. YouTube was born in 2005. Things are completely different. The privileges that brands have today that they didn't have in 2005 are almost uncountable. And yet, visitor centres are suddenly shrinking down their hours. They're laying off staff. They're closing things. They're doing... It seems like right now, when the positive stuff should be happening, when you should be reaching out and saying, come and see what we do, when you should be connecting with people, making your product much more accessible, now's the time to do that. Now, there are brands out there that have gone out and they've recruited middle-aged Hollywood film stars to do such a thing, which is stupid, in my opinion. As much as I love those film stars that they've recruited, whiskey's problem right now is how do we get the next generation in? Because you can tell them how fantastic it is, but you need to make it accessible and affordable to them. You need to make them want to come and visit you. You need to, when that happens, have a way to say, thank you for coming here. We love that you came to see what we do. Right now, it's very snooty. It's very stuffy. The investment that's been made is not on the future. The investment that's been made is on capitalizing on the now, on the greed. And just because other brands are doing it doesn't mean that you should. Just because other brands are getting away with it doesn't mean that you will. Let's spin it back a wee bit and talk about some positives. There are lots of variables involved in setting up a distillery experience, a visitor centre, tours, whatever it may be. It can be difficult. And you can be in a really remote space. Consider how tough it must be for Ardnamurchan, away out on the Western Peninsula, away out there. There are people that live out there, but not many. And a lot of people that do live there, especially at the age maybe that you would be recruiting them as distillery staff, tour guides, things like that, they're away to get work in the Central Belt for a while, or education or university or whatever it may be. Then there are places that are a bit more fortunate, despite being a bit remote. Consider Campbelltown. We've got a few thousand people down in Campbelltown. We've got a pool of people often looking for jobs. So if you can recruit them into your distillery, there's a chance that they will not only work happily for you, but they'll be able to convey the culture of their town, where they live, everything they do. And there's a chance that they might stay working for you. Campbelltown arguably has it easier than most because of the resources that they have nearby at hand. However, Springbank could still have suggested at every point that they have the best whiskey. They have the most in-demand whiskey, and nobody would have argued with that. Subjective, of course, but it's certainly objectively one of the most in demand by quite a distance. But they have not. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I've got some examples here. This was a gift to me from my pal Keith. Thank you, Keith. I'm going to cover up his name. I've said it's Keith, but this is a cage bottle from my buddy who, through his job, is able to travel up and down to Campbelltown quite regularly. For my birthday this year, he bought me this Hazelburn Fresh Sherry. Now, this is 8 years old. Look at the colour of it. It's going to be gorgeous. It's obviously a cage bottle. £65, literally a cage bottle from fresh sherry, cask strength, one of the most in-demand whiskies on the planet, and so utterly humble and charming and everything. £65. £65. Let's imagine that they don't have any cage bottles when you appear. Let's imagine that the selection isn't what you desire on that particular day. They've also got these demijohns, and you can always buy these, whether it's a Longrow, a Springbank, a Hazelburn, a Kilkerran. I don't even remember how much this is. £55. I have never opened one of these bottles and been disappointed. Never. It's fabulous liquid. Every time you visit Springbank, you get this humility bleeds into the culture of the place, the culture of the town. You get a warm greeting. You have people that are down to earth having a laugh with you and a joke with you. You have the sense that they are genuinely happy, especially if you're polite to them. My goodness, just human decency. You come away with a sense that you are welcome there, that they appreciate you've traveled to them. A sense of hospitality. Totally with you regarding reducing production. Okay, maybe, but you could also stock up for the future. It's I'm totally with you. He's talking about investing while things are quiet, I think. It's maturing whiskey after all, but reducing visitor centres is plain stupid. Reducing the value proposition is absolutely stupid. Gav Lewis, the Epicurean, is saying, was it a Giuseppe Giordo of Alenia? No. Aerospatiale? No, it wasn't, but it was in that industry. It was Giovanni Battista was his name. It wasn't Giuseppe. Thanks for asking, Gav. Pedro is saying, when I visited Bamor, they said to me that they won't have T-shirts anymore because it's not premium enough for the brand. They can't get premium enough T-shirts. It's just so stuffy. So stuffy. Fandom is not important to them anymore. Luxury, aspiration, premium is. This is the Bamor that's collaborating with an automotive brand, because drinking and driving just makes perfect sense. We can all drink and drive in Scotland, right? You know, it's legal to drink in Scotland. It's legal to drive in Scotland, just not on the same day. It's absurd to me that there are whiskey companies out there that is promoting such a thing in 2025. Or you meet Ali at your tour, very hospitable with extra insight and a little extra dram. Ali's just a fantastic guy, and it's the enthusiasm and it's the warmth and it's the humanity about him. It's amazing, and it's obvious at the same time. Cesare has bought me a dram to say, good experiences make very good remembers. Absolutely. It's the memories. It's all about the memories, isn't it? And Sean is saying, when you look at the brands that treat their visitors right, it's reflected in community engagement on social media. Look at how the likes of Ardna Murchan do things. Alistair, I'm going to talk about this, Sean. I have to. It's absolutely spot on, and it's not difficult. First of all, Whiskey's in. So good to see you, buddy. He's talking about Wahiki. His next level welcoming. Dave Broom said it's his favourite in the world to visit. I suspect it's down to culture. It's down to attitude. It's down to the sensibilities and philosophies of the company. Alistair Gray, good to see you. Shout out to Glenn Murray. Also do handfuls for 65 quid. Cracking single casks, lovely wooden presentation box, and great for the log burner. They could ditch the wooden presentation box and they could keep the profits because we'd still be happy at 65 quid, right? Michael Wood is saying, Roy, is that here's a thought. Does whiskey attract nice people or does it create nice people? I've got a theory about this, Michael. It's for another topic. But I think that whiskey is good at attracting curious minds, open-minded people. That's about as succinct as I can say that. Arnie's saying, trial a Twitch stream. Yeah, maybe not. First, Phil Whiskey is saying it. Has Aquaviti talked about the Glencadam's new visitor centre yet? I haven't touched upon it yet. I don't have a Glencadam bottle here, but Glencadam's just launched their new visitor centre. It's taken a wee while, but they've got it there. It's looking very attractive. It's looking pretty. And obviously I went into this with anxiety. I was like, how much is this going to cost? How have they set it up? But I have to say, it looks like that the opener experience with the tour dram type experience is about 22 quid. So they've got it right. In terms of the way the landscape is right now, I don't think that they are setting up that area of their business to be profitable on its own as a standalone business. Because if they are, I think that's wrong. I think that should be subsidized. I'm asking too much. Because it has to pay for the staff and the infrastructure and everything. It costs money to put a visitor centre there. It really does. But it's almost immeasurable if you get that visitor centre right, what it's doing to the brand out in the big world. The sales, the repeat sales, the word of mouth, the endearing nature of going about things right. And is £22 really the entry level for a tour at a Scottish distillery? Maybe it just is. Maybe that we are in 2025, then that's probably as good as we can expect. I mean, if I was to suggest to you in 2005 when I went to Glengoyne, it was £6. Then the inflation's going to be, what, about 12? So what is we saying that it's doubled? I think it should be subsidized. And I think as soon as people want to get really nitty-gritty and they want flights and they want experiences and matching up with chocolates and all of these things, then premiumize that, absolutely, because you're going to be doing very deliberate things. Then you're at the point of where you're doing events for people. So it's not just a case of doing a tour and offering them a dram. Premiumize that side of it, by all means, for people that really want to get to throw money at this and understand it more. But in order to get people in the door and endear your brand to them, the statement, "You're welcome here," should be 12 quid. Come and do a tour and a dram for 12 quid. I just feel I'm asking too much. I don't know. Justin Wan is saying distilleries and companies may screw things up, but the staff always try their best to right the wrongs and provide the best experience for visitors. I had that very experience recently, and I'm going to talk about it tonight. It's not the staff. It's not the people that are put front line to fend this all off, you know, like the postie who's getting a hard time because your mail's late. Because, you know, this is functional things, decisions by the people who you never see or hear. It's not the staff, and we should never be rude to staff. We should never complain or give them a hard time, but we can give them our honest feedback. Christian is saying, had the pleasure to do a Springbank Barley bottle tour with Ali twice. Fantastic guy and such a great tour guide. Absolutely. Ali won't always be there. But if they continue to find people with that enthusiasm, that human engagement, they're doing a great job. And if they can't, that needs to be at least part of what they're trying to get across. Look at David Brodie out at Bunnahabhain. Bunnahabhain's doing everything to undo what they've built up for years with their visitor experience right now. And it's down to people, the great humans out there like David Brodie, like Ali and other people, to do the right things, to do the good things. Anyway, I'm going to pour. Let's continue talking about the good people, the warm welcome of the visitor centre. David Brody's a great example. Ali's a great example. By the way, there are many, many, many more. Ruby at Brookladdy. There are probably every distillery has someone, and if you get them, you're going to have a good time. A good human, somebody who's genuinely passionate, somebody who can be patient with you, somebody who can be, and even they don't need to be knowledgeable. This is the crazy thing, and this is a mistake that's being made. The geeks turn up and they start to ask geeky questions, and they quickly work out that probably they know more than the tour guide. But that doesn't mean to say you have to be impolite or rude. Take in what you can, enjoy what you can, and then find somebody afterwards that can answer your more geeky questions. We are not asking that people be super knowledgeable whiskey geeks in order to give us a tour of a distillery. But we are asking that they are trained. And we are asking that they are paid a reasonable amount of money, because they will attract people and the good people will stay if they're paid. But if they're on minimum wage, we're back to the investment topic again. Tour guide is not the bottom rung of the employment ladder. It is absolutely not. They are front of house, front and center. They are everything that connects your brand to people. They need to be invested in. They need to be paid appropriately, and they need training. They need to have confidence, and their employer can instill that confidence in them. Here's a nice having. I've had this for a wee while now. This was bottled back in, I think it's pre-pandemic, this one. It's a 2005. Yeah, this was actually a gift from the boys. I think it was actually Simon Ray at Nottingham Whisky Association. This is a burgundy finish, Bunnahabhain Moynia. I think it's a Moynia. Maybe it's not Moynia. Maybe it's unpeated. I think this one is unpeated, actually. The Moynia's down here. Bottled in 2020. So it was just before pandemic, January 2020. So I knew it was that time. It's been around for a while. I'm not going to dwell on the whiskey here, but I'm going to dwell on Bunnahabhain. We're a small community, right? You look at the Oswas, the scale of the Oswas, the scale of the Dramface Top 40, all of these things. You can measure these initiatives and count in hundreds of people, right? It goes into the thousands, of course, but we're not in tens and 20s of thousands, not yet. But despite the sample size being small, I think they are uncannily remarkable at measuring things that are on the up and things that are on the way down. Deanston, Bunnahabhain, and for some inexplicable reason, Tobermory are all on the slide. They're all on the downslope. And I can only put that down to two things. Number one is the obvious thing, the sheer competition of other fully natural whiskies that are available today in 2025. It's going to get tough at the top. So legacy brands like Deanston, a crazy calling Deanston a legacy brand, but it's true. Bunnahabhain, definitely legacy. And Tobermory, again, a Renaissance brand. For them to be on the way down, I think is quite remarkable. And I think it's got so much to do with clumsiness, their messaging. You can still buy Bunnahabhain 12, Tochika, Sturicher, lots of other entry-level Bunnahabhains for very, very reasonable prices. You can buy Tobermory, especially through their Lechick Sinclair series, for really down close to £30 and below even sometimes. Incredible value. Deanston 12 can be regularly had below £40 as well. These are entry-level accessible products. But as soon as you want to premiumize, it starts to get very, very difficult. And I'm not talking about 18 and 25-year-olds. You visit the distillery centre. For a 2019 distilled Palo Cortado, I don't know if it's 5 or 6 years old. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt and suggest it's 6 years old. How much do you think that Bunnahabhain are charging you today? I know this is the case because I've literally been sent a photo of the visitor centre this week. For a 6-year-old Bunnahabhain, £115. They're not even competing. They're just completely drunk on their own success over the previous years, I think. Bunnahabhain's one of the most remote places you can find. You might remember one of the visitor centre managers way back years ago talking about how much investment for people who make the pilgrimage to Scotland, how much investment they then make to go on to make the pilgrimage to Islay, that remote western island. And when you're on Islay, you need to make a remote pilgrimage to the northeast of that on a single track road to visit Bunnahabhain. And they wanted to make that special. But these days, does special mean because you're so remote, hit you over the head? Price-wise, because that's what's happening. That's the most obvious example to me, but I can talk to you about the crazy prices. There was a shelf, a section here with the Palo Cortado on it, and there was not a single Bunnahabhain that you could buy for less than £100. Everything was three figures, and I'm not even talking about close to £100. It was well beyond that. That's the price of whiskey today, is it? That's the message that we're saying. That's just, as soon as you, and then you, so how much is your 12-year-old? £45? All right, how much is that 6-year-old? 100 and what? It's broken. It is broken, and I don't know how to fix it again. How do you do a 180 from that? Oh, the visitor centre has to pay for itself. No, I'm sorry. The brand has to pay for the visitor centre. That's how it should be working. It's these prices. The Bunnahabhains, that Burgundy finish, and the other distillery exclusive. This is from 2018. 2007 bottled, 2018. 7 years since I purchased a Bunnahabhain distillery bottle your own. And that is down to nothing about Bunnahabhain. I love the distillery. Nothing to do with the parent company. Nothing to do with the quality of whiskies. I adore it. Everything to do with the fact that it's daylight robbery at the visitor centre. It's an affront. It is standing up and saying the opposite of hospitality. It's the opposite. Shout out to Deanston, distillery bottle available as 200ml and 50ml bottles. So 200ml and 50ml, so samples in 200s. They do that. Not sure if standard across their portfolio though at Babuna and Tobermory. This should be an industry standard. It is. But the 20cl, I might be able to tell you what the 20cl for that wee product was. Is there any chance? I don't know if I could find the photo now, but let's have a wee look, just in case I can, because you never know. So many photos coming in from all over the place because everyone's visiting right now. I think I'm going to spend a moment, if you'll let me. Here we go. Found it. Warehouse number 9, 2019, Palo Cortado, 70cl. Did I say £115? Yeah, £115. 20cl, £40. So you can get a dinky little cute 20cl bottle for 40 quid. Does that seem like a bargain to you? I don't know. It's even more expensive per dram. I think it's great that they offer samples, and it doesn't come cheap. It's not an inexpensive thing to do, right? To fill samples, and I think it's great that they do 20cls as well. But the prices have got to be appropriate. Whiskey and Wine Trails Tom saying, great experience at Bunnahabhain this week, but bought nothing. Tom's travelled from Arizona to one of the most remote distilleries in Scotland, and he's come away with nothing. And I know why. He's got the funds to travel that distance, but he is not willing to just throw money when he recognises immediately what's happening. Cesare is saying that they are blind by success. Harrow is saying, when at Glenfarclas, we got to try an expensive whiskey because we looked like geeks. We asked too much. Very nice. And we got a lift back to our hotel. Very welcoming visitor centre. I have to put every visit to Glenfarclas has felt warm and felt like I've been made welcome. Absolutely true. Warmest welcome I've had at a distillery this year was at Benromach. Had a fantastic visit. I've not visited Benromach yet, but I know I'm getting similar feedback from other people that they're enjoying it. Sean is saying Buna making up this year's 12 cask strength release from 65 to 90 left a bitter taste with me and many others. I'm not buying it at that. Sorry. I might have to buy it for vPub content, that type of thing. But Roy, who's just going to put a bottle on the shelf to share with his pals, I'm not paying 90 quid for a Buna having 12 cask strength. That's absurd. That's just pure greed, and it's getting more expensive all the time. It's who's in charge of reading the room at CVH Spirits right now? Gian dramming around. Can I just do a wee short shout out for dramming around? It's Gian, Luigi, and Teresa, and their blog, their write up, not exclusively, but the vast majority of it is exactly this: dramming around. Jan, if you want to put that link in, I'll make sure the link to your website is published in here. If you put it into the chat, they are relaying exactly distillery experiences around Scotland from the perspective of distillery visitors. Fantastic content. Eric is saying, how much do you think the flipper phenomenon motivated the distilleries to increase their prices at the visitor centre? Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what it did. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I don't think that it's fair that somebody is able to make money out of your product when you can't, but you have to be very, very careful. If you start to compete with the secondary market and the secondary market disappears, like it has done since 2023, it's gone. You are then left in the ugly position where the secondary is undercutting the primary market. That's what the situation we're in right now. And all of these brands are having to redevelop new brands because they can't take their existing brands and suddenly discount them, because it's very, very, I admit that looks very ugly and clumsy. It's very difficult to come back from that. You've been caught for being greedy. It was difficult at the time. Did Springbank change their 10-year-old from 50 quid to 150 quid? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Retailers, distribution agents, networks, supply chains are making money off Springbank by bunsing it. And definitely the secondary market was making ridiculous money off Springbank. And they resisted the temptation, and Springbank is unscathed by the secondary market landing on its backside. These things, they don't seem difficult. I know that it's businesses I'm talking about, but I'm an enthusiast and I don't give a crap about businesses like that from that perspective. I'm here because I care about Scotch whisky, because I care about the product, I care about the landscape, the scene, community, the people involved in it. I care about all of these things, and I hate when it's mishandled. Ian Bruce is saying, good evening, Roy. I hope all the barflies are keeping happy and healthy. Can I make a huge thank you to the wonderful Glenn Duncan, who shared some great whiskey, a testament to the community. He's a superstar, Glenn. The latest gift I got from Glenn Duncan was a Sykes hydrometer. Amazing it was too. Peter Hunt is saying, in the secondary market is struggling right now. A lot of bargains to be had. It is literally, in the majority of cases, undercutting the primary market. Pedro is saying, but managing, looking for secondary is like driving, looking at the back mirror. Exactly. Crashing is inevitable. You're right, Pedro. I like the analogy. Rob Smith is saying, I have yet to be to Scotland, but this is making me think I will not go to as many distilleries as I originally wanted to when I get there finally. What I will say, not to backtrack on anything I've said, but standing on the pier at Bunnahabhain, standing on the little balcony there, looking out across the Sound of Islay, across to Jura, is literally one of whiskey's privileges. Do what Tom did. Go to Bunnahabhain, enjoy it. Really enjoy it. Take it in. Do a tour, a warehouse tour especially. Maybe you'll get David or someone like David, somebody who's really kind of engaged and exciting and fun to be with. And you'll just have a wonderful, wonderful time. And as you walk out the visitor centre, just try and not feel grumpy at the prices on the shelf. It takes a wee bit of effort. But Bunnahabhain is a wonderful place to make a pilgrimage to. And they make cracking liquid too. Gordon Bunniston is saying, totally agree on a Bunnahabhain visitor centre. I was there this summer and I left empty-handed. The feedback is unanimous. Some people are picking up little souvenirs or 20cl bottles or something like that, but they could be doing so much better. Surely it's better to sell lots of something at a fair price with a reasonable margin than just a few bottles of it with a big fat margin. The CEO of Diageo came out this year and said, "We have been greedy." Okay, that's not verbatim. I'm paraphrasing. We have been greedy and we've been chasing the size of the margin rather than the size of the profitability. They're having to do a 180. Let's talk about Diageo for a second, because the other visitor centre I visited almost got me into whiskey, but not quite. It was a few years before the Glengoyne experience. It was Talisker over in the Isle of Skye. We had American friends over. We took him to Talisker. He got hooked into whiskey. He loved it. He took a bottle of Talisker home with him. I didn't pick it up immediately after that, but I remember the tour at that time being very, very, very inexpensive to tour Talisker. Very inexpensive. It's not the case today. I was in a Diageo distillery visitor centre just last week. The scene that I witnessed, I spent years in marketing, but it wasn't this type of marketing. But the fundamentals were so wrong that you wonder who's at the helm right now, who's in charge. I suspect that what's happening is that they're going through a change, and it's difficult to manage this change in a way that isn't going to be ugly. Diageo can't come out of this without being bruised. What can I pour to talk to you about this? Let's pour this. A distillery visitor centre exclusive Lagavulin from 2017. I love this bottle. There's not much of it left. This cost me £99. I felt it was very expensive at the time, but we look back and realise that this was actually quite well priced. It's been a long time since I've purchased a distillery visitor centre exclusive from Lagavulin, despite how much I adore the distillery. The prices at Diageo, we're told, should improve. We've not seen that particularly demonstrated on the last special releases that came out. It wasn't quite as bad as we thought, but it's still bad. And Lagavulin 12-year-old and special releases went up again. Let's talk about the visitor centre experiences at Diageo, though. This is a gorgeous wee glass of whiskey. It was Oban Distillery that I went to. And the first whiskey that I saw was perched upon this wooden pedestal. You could call it a wooden pedestal. Just single bottle, showing you that this was a very, very, very special bottle of whiskey, okay? A little price next to it, showing you that it was also a very expensive bottle of whiskey. Screamed premium special. And it was a nicely appointed visitor centre. It was very comfortable to look at. There's no place to sit or relax or hang out, unfortunately, but it's a shop. It was more like a shop. The staff were really friendly. They approached you with a smile and they were polite and they were, "Do you need help with anything?" Things like that. But as I went round the shelves, you realise it's not the staff. It's not the staff. Expensive bottle after expensive bottle after expensive bottle, overpriced, right next to bottles from years in the past with huge discounts. Red numbers, literally lines written through the original RRP with 30% off. I might have taken a picture of it to share it with you. It is just so people are looking at this going, this is Oban with 30% off. It's got a better age statement than that, and it's cheaper, and it's an absolute mess. Because when you're caught being greedy, it's very, very difficult to pretend that you weren't greedy. You walk into, and I imagine it's the same with Diageo visitor centres up and down the country, whether you go to Blair Athol or Lagavulin or Kalila or all of these other places, if they've still got old stock, especially of things like previous year's releases or special releases, they're going to be deep discounting all of that stuff. Meanwhile, they're peddling the current stuff at the high prices. It's a little bit like going to your local supermarket and seeing the label white and knowing I'm not going to buy that right now until that label turns yellow. You have taught me that you're discounting your stuff directly in your shops, or you're going to do a deal through the retailers out there and give them heavy discounts in order for them to realise the cheaper prices. Craig McGuinness saying you will get a warmer welcome at the Old Inn 100 yards down the road than you will at Talisker. Staff totally put me off even going into the distillery. There might be its culture. If your culture is posh, luxury and premium, that bleeds into the vibe of the environment. If you're down to earth and your culture is to tell your staff to be welcoming and thankful for the people that have made the pilgrimage to your place, the attitude and the environment is completely different. What can we do for you to make you feel glad you arrived here? Whisky, you're Scottish, Craig. This is, and I feel like this is in our DNA. Whisky and Wine Trails is saying Lagavulin was most disappointing experience on Isla. Warehouse tasting was sterile, and casks were bang average. And that's a shame, Tom. That's a shame, because it used to be one of the highlights. It used to be one of the, and of course I'm going back to the days of Ian MacArthur, of Pinky. His recommendation was this bottle. And he recommended that we buy it because it was running out. There wasn't much stock left. It'd been there for a little while. He felt that £99 was, at the time, was a bit expensive, but it was far better than the other products, and that was his recommendation. But his biggest thing is that he said that the staff at Lagavulin were involved in putting this bottling together, and that everything that he had available since, they were not involved. It was taken central. And we saw Lagavulin and Virgin Oak and all of these kind of crazy, wacky things coming out. Lagavulin and tequila casks, all of this type of stuff. He poured for us the special release that year, which was a particularly poor release year. And he asked our opinion. And when we gave our opinion, it was very, very lukewarm. And he asked us, he pleaded with us to put the feedback on TripAdvisor. Because the management, the people involved in making decisions were not listening. There was no route for them to feed back. The decisions that they were making was poor and being poorly received by the people that were visiting the distillery. No mechanism. But he said, if you go to TripAdvisor, they're all over that. It's telling, isn't it? How difficult can it be for anyone making a decision in an organization, whether it's a family-run business or you're operating on the behalf of shareholders, to be at the place where the contact is happening with your primary customers, to work there for a few days, surveys, questionnaires, get to know the staff, get to know the customers, whatever it is. Because I really feel like it's just not happening in so many companies, not just Diageo. This is a treat. Here's to Ian. I hope your retirement is going well, fella. We miss you. Hopefully one day I can make it to Glasgow Whisky Festival. Enjoy, folks. Ian, we will enjoy it. And we'll look forward to a time that we can welcome you there. Let's talk about a couple of visitor centres that are just getting it right, just killing it. We've talked about the wonderful experience we have at Springbank. And when I say Springbank, of course, I'm talking about Glengyle as well. It's the same visitor centre experience. If you go up the road to Glen Scotia, their whiskey's getting better and better, but there's a good chance that you might not have a very good experience. The shop is often not staffed, can sometimes be closed. It's just starting to feel a little bit sterile because the attitude is very, very different. You know, they're not saying, well, we can't keep somebody. Why can't you keep somebody in the shop? Because, you know, it's not always busy and something. Sorry, I know it might be a wee bit boring, but if you keep that shop fully staffed and if you invest in the experience that shop can offer people, they won't be bored. If you can get more people into that shop, you'll sell more stuff. You'll help to pay for the shop a bit more. But more than anything, Loch Lomond Group should be investing in the only visitor centre that they have. Why are they not investing anything in it? They're making some of the best whiskey today. We see it in the stats. Glen Scotia is going from strength to strength. Loch Lomond is going from strength to strength. Loch Lomond cannot offer a visitor centre. The location where they make whiskey, a visitor centre will never be permitted there. Glen Scotia has a visitor centre. Why is it not being invested in? Maybe there are some complexities and issues and challenges that they face that should be subsidised. That should be their opportunity to connect with people, like just down in Well Close, their neighbours down the hill are doing so comfortably and so well. They're doing it well. What about new wave distilleries? We've already talked about Ardnamurchan. Here's don't know how long I've had this on the shelf. I actually thought I had one of these open, but it's obviously been rinsed. Here's a 5-year-old Octave. Now, Ardnamurchan sometimes are doing 70 CLs. Maybe they've changed to exclusively 50 these days. This was 70 quid. In fact, I don't think it was 70 quid. I think it was cheaper than that. I think this was 60 quid, or maybe even a bit less. But I filled this in May 2024. This is a 5-year-old Oloroso. This is the right thing to do. These are the right prices. Here's one that obviously they didn't have glass. This is in a tall round. Actually, this is poured for me by somebody who maybe all of you will recognize by how they labeled the bottle. This is an Oloroso Octave, again 5 years old. This was filled in June 2022 with a very skew with label on it, but you can maybe read that label. Again, I think this was 60 quid, 65 quid. They're not doing this and making a loss. I really believe they are not making a loss. Here's a Glasgow distillery, much more closer and local to me. They don't have a visitor centre, but you can tour them. You can book in advance and they'll sell from their shop. This is a gorgeous, full-on. This is a Spinal Tap whiskey. Everything is dialed up to 11 in this. It's a 7-year-old whiskey, May 2025 bottled. Double distillation, low cut, 60.9% ABV, Oloroso sherry cask finish. Now this is peated, and they've taken virgin oak liquid that's been peated and finished it in an Oloroso. It doesn't say on the label, but it's not like a few months of a finish. This is actually more of a double maturation. 7 years old, £65. 65 quid. That's the Springbank price. That's the Ardnamurchan price. None of these distilleries, they're not getting together and making a wee cartel and saying, what will the price be, 65 quid? No, they're working out what, if they're having to do these kind of distillery exclusive bottlings, whether it's hand fill, bottle your own, pre-bottle and put it on the shelf, distillery only exclusive, whatever it is, they're working out that they can cover their costs at £65 and realise that they can send somebody home with something that's completely exclusive that they can genuinely hold dear and call it a souvenir. Surely this cannot be difficult. I'm inspired to talk about all of this stuff because I'm very aware of all the people that are in Glasgow this weekend and how much travelling and investment that they do in Scotland and all its distilleries. And this is also the same feedback from you. It's not me that's feeling this in isolation. Eric Waite's saying, what do you think about visiting distilleries in Scotland in late November to Christmas? If they're open, you need to check that in advance that they're open. A lot of them cut back. It's as good a time as any to go, Eric. Today, it got up to 16 degrees Celsius in Glasgow, and we're at the start of November. It was very mild today. The weather is whatever the ocean's going to bring. So we can literally have the same temperature in July as we can in November and December, just depending on what the ocean's bringing. So I wouldn't let weather put me off too much. Yeah, it's a good chance that it's going to be darker. There's a lot less daylight hours in the winter here. It's always going to be a high risk of damp and rain. It's just Scotland. It is what it is. If it's off season and the distillery's open, there's a chance for you to have a more intimate experience there. Quieter tours, that type of thing. Peter Hunt is saying Aquaviti, and yet Ian has left. Talking about Ian McAllister leaving Glen Scotia. Ian's gone off to pastures new opportunities, something very exciting, something very lucrative potentially for Ian. He's moved on, but Glen Scotia's never one person. Any distillery is never one person. There's an opportunity at Loch Lomond Group now to turn that challenge into a positive opportunity. So Ian's moved on. But the distillery, it cannot be the identity of a single person. Look at the problem that Lagavulin potentially having with Ian MacArthur moving on as well. Visited Glen Scotia 3 times, says Pedro. Came out empty-handed twice. Now, with Ian leaving the company, I don't see it getting better. Like I say, this is an opportunity. No company, no brand should be on the back of a single person. Master Chief Sea Chest, that's Mark. Good to see you. He's shouting 11. 11, did I say 11? Whiskey and Wine Trails is saying, Vicky and Emily at Arnaho treated me like royalty. I hope that Arnaho get the recipe right. We've got a fantastic potential with the resources that they have and the whiskey coming on stream for it to go from strength to strength. It's very ambitious what they've got going on at Arnaho. That's a big space they've got, a bar, a restaurant and things, and I know that it's not always open. It's a big retail space there. But that brand is just, it's got so many other things right that with that infrastructure in place, they could get the rest of it right as well. Tom is saying, sorry, I picked yours up, Tom. Doodle the Drama is saying, this is Glasgow Distillery exclusive is an epitome of dense flavour in whiskey. Look, it is very cask driven. If you were to make tasting notes of that Glasgow Distillery exclusive, you would end up with a list of potentially cask driven tasting notes. But sit with it, Arnie. I hope that you're tasting that wonderfully robust and ridiculously adaptive Glasgow raw spirit that's coming through underneath as well. Falsgraph is saying, let me advertise Aquaviti. Andre from Whiskey Tales just had his second video of suggestions how to improve Diageo. I just hope that English subtitles brings at least half of his stuff across. And I fully doubt that, I don't doubt that Andre Habrecht, I think you're speaking about, me, Aquaviti, Ralphie, all of us are going to be very much speaking from an enthusiast's perspective. We don't know everything or all the details, but surely our feedback's worth an iota of value to somebody somewhere. Anyway, what if you can't get to a distillery? What if you come here? What if you find yourself in Glasgow or Edinburgh or somewhere, and a distillery's not on the cards, but you have a chance to maybe post dinner, get up to something, or in between shops, you get a chance to go to a retailer. There's lots of other things available to you. And it's actually quite fascinating to me. And it gives me an inkling of hope that this concept of welcoming visitors can be done better. If you look at the visitor attractions that we have available that are not distilleries, we're spoilt for choice. We've got Glasgow, Edinburgh, any big city, we've got our whiskey bars in place. You can go in there, you can hang out with good whiskey people, you can get advice from behind the bar, you can choose from a ridiculous array of whiskies. It's amazing. You don't need to go to the visitor centres for it. Visitor centres will only sell you one brand. These places are agnostic to the brand. If you're in Edinburgh, you're even more spoilt for choice. You've got whiskey bars and places to go in Edinburgh, but you've also got the Scotch whisky experience at the top of the Royal Mile, which I have to say does a very, very good job of representing multiple different brands and doing a good job of giving people a very, very easy way to connect with whiskey. It does it very well, very much in the spirit, dare I say, culture of whiskey, but also Scotland. It's a good place to go. They have a cracking bar. The Amber Bar is fantastic. And the selection in the shop of official bottlings, I'll admit, it's all official. It's not independent. but they have a fantastic range of products. And the prices are all pretty reasonable too. Then if you got Princess Street, now I've yet to dip my toe in the full experience. I've yet to sign up for a proper tour and things like that. But even Whiskey Geek pals are coming to me saying, Roy, you know exactly what's happening at Princess Street, right? Diageo's Johnny Walker experience. But I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed myself. It was good fun. It was very accessible. It was not stuffy. And you could connect with it. That is a cool thing to hear. There are places that we can go and things that we can do in our city centres that we can feel welcome. It's not the brand home, but it's another home for whiskey. Small word of warning. Some places are priced for tourists. It's just the way of it. It's just the way of it. It's their location, the cost of what it takes to have a shop there maybe, or just their attitude towards what they can charge for whiskey. Some of it can be a bit expensive. I'm speaking about our nation's capital here. Some of the stores are more expensive. You go to the independent stores, you go to the stores that have their shelves dripping with indies alongside the official bottlings, the informed staff, that sense of community that we love and we've become very, very happy and comfortable with in whiskey is very much alive in these shops and these places. Of course, I'm speaking about places like a Good Spirits Company in Glasgow. But I'm also talking about Royal Mile Whiskies in Edinburgh. I'm talking about Aberdeen Whisky Shop. I'm talking about Dunkeld Whisky Box. I'm talking about places up and down the country and everywhere. The independent spots. No doubt Inverurie Whisky Shop. Even the Green Welly. Tyndrum Whiskies in the Green Welly. These are good places to go. These are places that, despite the fact that they are retail spaces, they are completely agnostic to brand. They will sell you what they believe to be good. The Scotch Whisky experience on the Royal Mile, agnostic, more or less. Johnny Walker is very, very different, but it's at least accessible fun. Yes, they're trying to put their brand, make their brand a big thing that's built on the back of whiskey, that's built on the back of people, all of that stuff, but they still manage to do a good job and the feedback is positive. MasterChef Sea Chest Mark is saying the various tasting programs at JW Princess Street are amazing. So you've been there, Mark, and you've actually rolled your sleeves up and you're enjoying it. I'm going to pour something fantastic. I'm going to pour my own, bottled myself, at Clydeside Distillery in my own city in Glasgow, 60.1%. This is ex-bourbon. I bottled this on the 14th of October, but it was distilled on the 1st of May 19. This is my own handwriting, everything here in this wee bottle. This is something I was happy to do. I think it was 65 quid, that magical price, right? Ex-bourbon as well. Let's get some in a glass so that we can roll into the quiz at the end. Roy, it's going to be a short vPub tonight. Why so short? I will prioritise all of you guys, all the people that can't make it to Glasgow this weekend, this single weekend of the year. But I've got one hell of a weekend ahead of me. And I think I need a wee bit of beauty sleep. I'm not tired right now. I feel like Superman. I feel great. But I know this weekend is going to take its toll. Hence why I've been very, very light on the drams tonight. I hope you'll forgive me. Excuse me. I think it's the responsible thing to do, and I think I would like to start as I mean to go on and kind of just make sure that the pacing can get me through the weekend. This is from my local distillery, Clydeside. I think they're getting better and better and better, and I would like to think if you visit Clydeside, Bridgine and our team of staff down there will do a great job of looking after you. Super fruity, super fruity. Of course, it's bourbon cask. Lots of fresh orchard tonight. Oh, a nice wee bit of soft spice, maybe even you could argue a wee bit of kind of fresh ginger here. There's a lot of alcohol on the nose. There definitely is. A lot of youth as well, but so much purity. This is their distillery bottling, 65 quid. This is the same age as that Bunnahabhain, 115 quid. Double the price. The new distilleries are coming and they're getting it so right. So right. It is absurd how many people come back to me and say, I had a wonderful experience at X and a boring experience or a terrible experience at X and at Y, sorry. X is an independent distillery, often a new distillery, grounded, feet on the ground, realistic pricing, people to people. Y is a legacy distillery, and they're getting this fundamental thing wrong. They have taken their whiskey and they have prioritized brand first. Our brand, this is our brand home. Pish, it's not your brand home. Your brand can be anywhere that you want to plaster your brand. Your brand is a construct. I was in branding for years. Don't tell me where your brand home is. Put your brand home anywhere you want. Where you make the whiskey is the home of the whiskey. That's where it's not about promoting your brand. It's about getting the people interested and on board first, and the promotion of the brand will take care of itself. And you can go across the world on the back of that success and build brand homes. Your distillery, where you make the whiskey, is your whiskey home. Your brand can exist anywhere you want it to exist. We've forgotten how to do hospitality. We've got greedy. We've got a little bit lazy. We've prioritized the thing before whiskey and certainly before people. We've got it the opposite way around. I say I don't have any decisions in this stuff. Other people out there do. I'm telling you, I feel it and I sense it and I hear it firsthand and secondhand. We've gotten it the wrong way around and we're making a backside of it because we are making fat margins today and nothing tomorrow, instead of making reasonable margins today and reasonable margins tomorrow and the day after and the day after. We've put greed up front. That is not whiskey for me. Whiskey is a humble product. That is not Scotland for me. Scotland is a welcoming nation. And nothing tells me you're not welcome more than an artificially inflated price put there to engender exclusivity. Craig McGuinness saying, I wish I'd picked up a bottle of that bourbon cask when I was in Clydeside. I went back a week later and it was gone. A great welcome by Clydeside. Thanks, Craig. I'll give you a wee drop of mine. If you remind me, I'll bring it the weekend. Justin Wan is saying, keep it short, Roy. Do a service to the pilgrims to the wonderful Glasgow this weekend. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the other side in 7 days after the quiz, of course. Roy, good night. See you in all the barflies on Saturday, Gav. I'm looking forward to welcoming you, buddy. And Jimmy Legg is saying, Aquavita, I still have some of your Brora left. Do you? Yes, Jimmy. But it's only a wee teeny amount. Yeah, that's nice. I got to share it with you, fella. Cheers. Yes. I've said enough on hospitality now. I think you get the point. I want to do something with this in the future. I think it'd be nice to get data back from you, feedback from you. Where are you getting good experiences and where are you getting lesser experiences? Maybe there's an opportunity to do something a little bit like the Dramface Top 40. It's very, very, very focused on kind of an amalgamation of everything. Maybe distillery experiences is woven into that thing, the Dramface Top 40. But it'd be nice to come up with a way of measuring the distillery experience. That would help a lot of people visiting Scotland for whiskey excursions in the future. Graham Young's in as well. Cheers, everyone. Here's to the quiz. Sorry I'm keeping it a wee bit short tonight. It was always a plan. I put out the least amount of whiskey glasses I've ever put out for a vPub, I think. And I've pulled out the least amount of bottles. It's appropriate for the topic, but it's also appropriate for me and the rest of the weekend that I have ahead of me. Peter Hunt is saying it's all cyclical. 20s, yes. The 60s, the 80s, and now we never learn. We always let the pendulum swing too far, don't we, Peter? It's ridiculous. I love that you're saying we, by the way. I love that you're saying we, because we're all part of it. Okay. People are talking to Daisy, but I'm not seeing Daisy in. She is in. Fantastic. Good to see you, Daisy. I think you're planning to come over here. You maybe not flying until tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing this weekend. Jeff is saying first vPub. I've been able to see till the end before bedtime in months. Stay for the quiz at the end, Pete. Tell you what, I'll pour you a very special dram the next time I see you if you get a pass mark in the quiz at the end. Listen, apologies for keeping it short tonight. It's always the plan. I hope you don't feel cheated. I hope you feel like it's okay. I think I've said enough on the topic for tonight, and we can put the wheels on the quiz and get everyone playing along. No idea whether this is a hard quiz or an easy quiz. I don't know where my head has been the last 2 weeks with the Online Scotch Whisky Awards last weekend, and then building up to all the events that we've got laid on for the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend. I've been stretched pretty thin, but we still have 10 questions. I have put significant effort into them. I think that they are up to the usual standard of vPub quiz at the end questions. I just don't have a gauge on how easy they are. So I wish you all the very best of luck. It's always multiple choice. Just play against yourself. Only put the answers in the quiz, in the chat, sorry. If you want to, it's all optional. You can follow the people in the lounge live tonight. You can follow their things and go along and try and bump your score up. But sometimes it's nice to just play against yourself and see how you got on solo. Watch out for the banana skins, as always. Let's change our background. Okay, 10 questions, and then the mayhem of Glasgow Whisky Festival begins. Good luck, everyone. Question 1, which of these was an original official release from the classic malts of 1988? I'm going to give you 3 whiskies, and I want you to spot an official release from the classic malts of 1988. A, Talisker's 10-year-old. B, Glenkinchie 12-year-old. C, Lagavulin 16-year-old. Never feel cheated, Roy, says Ben Demon Hunter. Ben, I had the luxury of being able to I'll pop myself up on screen so you can see what I'm going to point at in a second here. Over my shoulder here, you might recognize these wee bottles. Ben, these are from our mutual friend now, I have to say, Lars, from the Red Deer Whisky Club. Lars was over in Glasgow, and the timing was terrible. And I was just about to say, unfortunately, Lars, I'll need to welcome you next time. I'm not going to be able to meet you, but we managed to grab the quickest cup of coffee in Glasgow. And how generous it was from him as well. He had these whiskies, Canadian whiskies, over. So, Ben, we spoke of you. And maybe I'll get a chance to meet you in Glasgow one day in the future. Dione is great, he's saying. Fantastic. Whoa, you spotted the banana skin, and I thought maybe I'd be able to catch you out on this. I thought a lot of you would just go in, all guns blazing, and suggest that all 3 of those were an original 1988 Diageo Classic Malts release. It wasn't Diageo back then, DCL, but there's a banana skin here, so potentially no, it's not a freebie, and that's absolutely true. Glenkinchie 12-year-old did not exist as part of the Classic Malts of 1988. It was originally a 10-year-old product that was replaced by a 12-year-old, but Talisker 10 and Lagavulin 16 absolutely did. So if you answered A or C, one of those, both of those, either way, give yourself a point and well done. First banana skin out of the way. Question 2. Much mention was made of the switch to 46% ABV and all natural on the Online Scotch Whisky Awards this time around. But for which single malt release? Cost a bit of a... This is something that Ralphie had been asking for years, and eventually he got it. A, Benromac, 10-year-old. B, Edredauer, 10-year-old. C, Tomatin, 12-year-old. Which of those has just been given a promotion to fully natural malt whiskey, 46% ABV? Good fun it was too. Boomer's in. Good to see you, Boomer. Justin Wan still playing along with the quiz at the end. Lachlan Mackenzie's in. Lachlan, good to see you and good to meet you tonight. You back at the hotel, fella? You getting some rest for the weekend? Where's Roy? Roy Ovimere also travelling, maybe also in Glasgow already. Glen FC is in. Klaus, good to see you, Glen FC. It was wonderful to have you contributing also to the Oswas this year as well. It's only recently I've been able to put two and two together and realise that you're the same person. Mirko is in. I got to see you. I got to meet you and Lachlan, both of you in the Bonaccord a wee bit earlier tonight. It's nice to see you. Billy Abbott is in participating along, and he's suggesting that this is B, along with Bruce Bernard, Willie Dolier, who will see at the weekend. Jimmy Legg is saying B. Mirko is saying, sorry, B. I can tell you, you're all absolutely right. Very easy one, I think. I think Andrew Symington took a bit of pleasure in saying, finally, Ralph, you've been asking for. Take it, get it up here. A bit of tongue-in-cheek. A nice kind of laid-back interaction there. Ralphie doesn't mind it one bit. Why? Because we've got a product that the way that it should have always been. Part of the 200th year anniversary celebrations for Signatory, and it's good to have it. Question 3. Which two close neighbours could, theoretically, if they wanted to, maybe buddy up and get together and both celebrate a 200th year anniversary in 2025? Which two neighbouring distilleries could theoretically do so? A. Edredar and neighbour Glencadam. B. Glendronach and neighbour Glengarry. Or C. Port Ellen and neighbour Laphroaig? Which two distilleries still could get together and have a wee joint celebration? Graham Fraser's saying, I'm still trying to work out if Edredar 2 has separate worm tubs. If you remind me, Graham, we can maybe figure that out this weekend. Wally Dolier's going for A on this one, along with the vast majority. Jacek Gawil. I know I'm making an absolute pudding of your name, my friend. Jacek. However, I'm butchering your name. I'm glad to have you here. It's nice to have you, and I'm sorry if I'm making a mess of it. Pedro's going against the grain here and saying Port Ellen and Laphroaig, but the rest of you are going strongly on A. James Morgan is saying A, and absolutely right. I've just given away the fact that it's 200 years of Edredar. Glencadam, it says it all over the bottle, 1825, 200 years of Glencadam as well. Fairly close to each other. I mean, a short drive, but easily drivable. And yes, they could theoretically have had a wee party and celebrating 2025 and 200 years. Question 4. As something of a follow-on from the classic malts and the Flora and Fauna series, Diageo created the hidden malts in 2002. But what was the hidden malts made up of? Which distilleries made up the hidden malts? Was it A. Balmenic, Knockdhu, Cardew, and Colilla? Was it B. Clynelish, Glenord, Colilla, and Glenelgin? Or was it C. Royal Lochnagar, Oban, Glenelgin, and Cardew? 3 sets of 4 distilleries. One of those sets of 4 made up the Hidden Malt series that was launched in 2002. And by the way, with the tiniest of exceptions, they are still available as such today. Rob Smith is going for 3 out of 10. He's enjoying this. Your pronunciation is great. Thank you. I wonder which pronunciation. Jacek Gawil. Jacek. Let's go with that. Changing to B. Whisky Games, Matt Bishop is still in. Looking forward to seeing you at the weekend, Matt. I wish you the very, very best on this table. I need to remember to come up and say hello. Graham Young is saying he's guessing B. Daisy is going with B, and Mirko and Ben Demon Hunter also going with B. They're all suggesting that it's Clynelish, Glenord, Kalila, and Glen Elgin. All absolutely spot on. Glenord obviously is now in a modern era part of the Singleton series, but there was a time that you could buy a Glenord, and it was part of the hidden malts. Clynelish still exists. It was a 14-year-old at 46%. It's part of the hidden malts. It still does today. Kalila, 12-year-old at 43, and Glen Elgin, a 12-year-old at 43 as well. These things still exist. I like the fact that Diageo are committed to consistency in branding. I really do. I love it. Here we have a spirit safe. There's a wee asshat in the corner, but it's a mild asshat. First, you need to work out where that spirit safe is located. There's a wee wash still in the background there as well, but where is that located? And then I'm going to ask you three things to match up. A, this distillery does not use peated malt, or B, it does not release a cask strength, or C, it does not have a visitor centre and shop. I'm looking for the correct statement there. This distillery that you're looking at, the Spirit Safe, does not use peated malt, it does not release a cask strength, it does not have a visitor centre and shop. I'll clear that so that you can see it a wee bit longer. Dwell for a second. I think it's very distinctive. A, it doesn't use peated malt. B, it doesn't release a cask strength. Or C, it doesn't have a visitor centre and shop. Kyle Taylor is in. Good to see you. Kyle is guessing C. Uncle Larry is going for A. Uncle Larry, is that the first time I've welcomed you? Nice to have you. Boomer is going for A. Wally Dollier is guessing C. Rob Smith going for A. Graham Young is saying C, and he's suggesting that we're looking at Daffmill here. Just going by likelihood on this one, says Klaus Falsgraf. I can tell you that we are indeed looking at Daffmill. Graham, well done. The Spirit Safe is the Daffmill Spirit Safe, which means that it does not use peated malt, correct. It does release a cask strength, but it does not have a visitor centre and shop. So I'm being very kind. If you answered A and C on this asshat picture question, either will get you a point. Well done. Things are going to hopefully get a wee bit trickier from here on in. Question 6. What can be said about the growth of Dalmore single malt, specifically over the last 10 years, by volume? A, it's about the same. B, it has doubled. Or C, it has tripled. Graham Young is saying it was Claudette that nailed that photo. Mike Molasses has suggested in the last 10 years it has gotten darker. Billy Abbott's celebrating a 5 out of 5 pass mark already, along with Daisy, Whiskey Games, Matt Bishop, Jimmy Legg, Glenn Efsey, Bruce Bernard, Willie Dollier, Graham Fraser, Mirko, Paul Gidley, Justin Wan, just as it jumps, Justin Wan, Rob Smith. Great stuff. What could be said about the growth of Dalmore single malt over the last 10 years by volume? Dalmore with its vast potential for growth. A, going with the flow. Wow, there should be a banana skin here. White and Mackay are knocking it out of the park. 3 of their 4 brands, and then also their blend, are amongst the fastest growing whiskey brands on the planet, which makes you realize our sensibilities versus business sensibilities. Dalmore is closed right now and it's committed to a £40 million increase in its capabilities at its distillery up there in Allness, because the decade up until the start of the decline in 2023, Dalmore's volume tripled. Now, the prices also shot up as well, so you can imagine what's happened to the revenue. Justin Wan is saying, haha, switch success. Well done, Justin. Should have been a banana skin there, but Dalmore has tripled in size. Question 7. For how many years, more or less, has the Singleton brand from Diageo been made up of Glenord, Dufton and Glendullan? So we talked about Glenord originally being part of the hidden malts, but now it's part of Singleton. That's just a long-winded way of saying when did they first come about? How many years has the Singleton brand been Glenord, Dufton and Glendullan? A, over a decade now. B, almost 2 decades. Or C, actually 3 decades now. Mike Molasses is saying, oh dear. Billy Abbott, I think I might have caught you out on the Dalmore question, along with Mike Molasses, Willie Dolier, start of the slippy slope, says Willie, Bruce Bernard as well. I'm enjoying this wee Clydeside. I'm going to go back and sip on some of this wee Lagavulin. Assuming you've not sipped something in a long time. Alistair is suggesting for changing you're disqualified. Plenty of time to change as long as you can't change after the fact, obviously. Most people thinking this is B, suggesting almost 2 decades. And I can tell you, you're absolutely right. 2007, so we're at 18 or 19 years now that the Singleton brand has been out there. I think it's comfortably within the top 5. Is it position number 3, I think, after Glenlivet and Glenfiddich? Question 8. How many years have we been able to buy official Wolfburn single malt? How many years have we been able to buy legal whiskey Wolfburn single malt? A, just over 7, time flies. B, almost 8, actually. Or C, surprisingly, it's closer to 10 years. How many years have we been able to buy officially released Wolfburn single malt? If B is right, then strictly speaking, A is right as well. Well, there's kind of truth in that. The way that yes, but you get the spirit of the question and the answer, Billy, right? Yeah. The answer depends on your budget and availability in your area. That's Eric Waite. Pedro's saying, not on my purchasing power. Talking to Matt, Whiskey Games. Jimmy Legg is suggesting A or B. Good spot, everyone. Good spot. Just over 7. Time flies. Could arguably be the same as almost 8, actually. But Wolfburn has now been on sale for closer to 10 years, 2016. So next year, I think it was springtime for the first inaugural when it came out. So we're getting very, very close to Wolfburn being available for 10 years. Just over 7 is quite close to 10. This is just no, that was kind of a way to help nudge you towards the fact that it's been almost 10 years. Question 9. Whatever happened to Isla's 11th distillery project? This was the one that we originally knew as the Glenegadale project or the Isla Boys project, but the 11th distillery project, originally by the Isla Boys near Glenegadale on Isla. What has happened to that project? A, despite planning approval, it wasn't financed. B, it's going ahead, but still to break ground. C, it has new owners, it is already built, and will come on stream imminently. What's come of the Glenegadale project. Okay, wow. Good stuff. Jimmy Link is saying, is it B, Graham Fraser? You're just literally. Graham Fraser is saying, I know this. Bruce Bernard is going for A. Ian Bruce is going for C. Lachlan is suggesting that he's going with the flow and also going for C. Rob Smith, C, going with the crowd. C with the barfly, says Pedro. Graham Young is saying C. You know, it's kind of amazing because I knew this, but it was only recently that I managed to put 1 and 1 together to come up with 2, right? What we're actually talking about here is Lagan Bay, which is now under the ownership of Ian McLeod, which is the Isla Boys project. It's the Glenegadale project. It's the one that's been on the cards for ages. It is C. It's got new owners, Ian McLeod. It's already built. Stills are in place. And Lagan Bay, Isla's 11th distillery, will probably be just ahead of Portnatroon in terms of producing whiskey. And Graham is saying Aquaviti, the brewery isn't happening now. So it was going to be a brewery with quite a small scale distillery added adjacent to it. And then they got other ideas and they made the distillery much bigger, and it was going to be a totally different thing with kind of 500,000 to 1 million litres per annum, that kind of deal. And that's what the direction they ended up going in, probably under the control and direction of Ian McLeod, I don't know. But there we go. This is Lagan Bay Distillery on Islay. Question 10, the ass hat at the end. Let's see how the scores are. Oh, we still have lots of 9s. Very, very good to see. Daisy, unfortunately, not there on an 8 nearly. Also, Ian Bruce Kyle on a 7, Mike on a 6, Lachlan on a 6. Pedro is grateful to the Barflies to get his 7. Paul Gidley on an 8, but a 9 from Rob Smith. A 9 from Dave the Brave. Excuse me, good to see you in, Dave. Graham Young enjoying a 9. Lots of 7s and 8s. Justin Wan on a 9. Graham Fraser on a 9. Wow. Okay, good luck, everybody. It looks like some of us will manage a 10 out of 10 tonight. Here's the ass hat. And it is an ass hat. I remember what this is, I think. How many of Scotland's 155 Scotch malt distilleries actually has a visitor centre? 155 distilleries, according to the Malt Whisky Yearbook. Of course, that can easily be out by a distillery or two, but more or less 155. How many have visitor centres? About the same as the number of A, island distilleries, including Islay. B, age stated on the oldest official bottling from Tomatin. Or C, the number of barflies heading for a post-festival curry on Saturday. How many of Scotland's 155 Scotch malt distilleries have visitor centres? Is it about the same number as the number of island distilleries, even if we include Islay? Or is it the number of B, the age stated in the oldest official Tomatin? Or is it C, the number of barflies that are heading from the festival on 2 coaches to a curry house in Glasgow to all get together to eat curry on Saturday night? Oh my goodness. Jimmy Leg is saying C is the most fun. Lassie Hortz-Watchman's going C. James Morgan is saying C, please. Mirko is saying C. Billy Abbott's going for C. Boomer is going for B. David Brave going for C. Barry Coleman, C. Good to have you in, Barry. Whiskey Games, Matt Bishop, Ian Bruce, Bruce Bernard, Ben Demon Hunter, all going for CCC. I think I know the first question, but uncertain about the second. Kyle Taylor saying, so 70 about the number. I'm going to give you a wee bit of help here, Kyle. Okay. Island distilleries, including Islay, add up to 28 distilleries. The age stated on the oldest official tomatin, as far as I could uncover at least, was 50. And the number of barflies heading for a post-festival curry on Saturday is 90, more or less. The reason that 90 is written there is that 90 people have paid, but we usually end up having over 100. Craig Dollier is the guy who sorts out the buses and the food on Saturday night. And I always buy him a wee bottle just to say thank you for all the effort he puts in, because it's not an easy task. But it's amazing how 90 people pay and we always end up with over 100 people heading in for a curry. That's fantastic. I never forget the first year that this happened, 2 buses. And as we stepped off the bus, I would love to know who said it. I can't remember who said it now. As we stepped off the buses to walk into the curry house, somebody said to their pal quite loudly, they said, remember that night that 100 of us went for a curry? And that's what happened after the Glasgow Whisky Festival. I think it was back in 2023 now that I heard that statement. But it's happening again this year. It's become a wee bit of a tradition. And I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all the festivities over the weekend. But, of course, that's what I'm leaning towards. Believe it or not, there are just around, it depends on how you define this. Edredour has a visitor centre, but it's not open, of course. There are different ways to kind of talk about visitor centres and things, but we're in the order of somewhere around 90 of the Scottish distilleries has a visitor centre. So if you answered C, and as some of you did, I know that at least one of you has managed a 10 out of 10 tonight. Fantastic, congratulations. Graham Young has managed his 10. Ben Demon Hunter has managed a 10. Failed the last one, says Gorm J. Oh, it's so close. That's the trouble with ASAC. Nice to have you in participating and playing along. Justin Wan is celebrating. It was worth staying up late tonight, Justin, wasn't it? 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10. That was an easy ASAC, says Daisy. Well done. Maybe you'll be... I think you might be one of the ones going for the curry on Saturday night, Daisy, right? Yeah, let's take that away from screen for now. I missed the first 4 questions due to a poorly timed bathroom break, says Dave VP. Oh, it's troublesome, isn't it? But it happens to the best of us, Dave. Nice to have you and playing along. Congrats to the 10 out of 10, says Ian Bruce, and Rob Smith saying 10. Yes, I'm calling in sick tomorrow to work. Good for you, Rob. And Pedro is saying congratulations to all the 10s. Amazing. Justin is saying Alistair Gray's disqualified 10. He's having a laugh with our pal Alistair up in Speyside. Rob is also congratulating all the 10 out of 10ers. Listen, I struggled tonight. I wanted to keep it positive. I really did, but it's a problem. We're struggling to uncover from to recover or to get out of our greedy situation that we've ended up in whiskey. And it really does manifest at the customer contact points. It manifests at the position where the customer is a potential future ambassador for that whiskey. Yes, for that brand. It's needs corrected. We need to stop prioritizing what has been built and prioritize the thing, whiskey, and prioritize the people. Those are the priorities, and that's done at the source. The thing that those two things make, the people and the whiskey, the brand, the distillery, the event, the space, the shop, the bar, the whatever it creates, the brand, that's the least priority. If you look after the people and the thing, that'll take care of itself. Lots of generosity coming in. Thank you so much. Jimmy Legs bought me a generous dram to say, I think you may be performing some real-life miracles here. It isn't improving the lives of so many people a miracle. Isn't bringing so many people together for such a happy purpose a miracle. I think it is. Cheers, you bastard. And this is the guy who only knows his whiskey. I've witnessed this. It really is true. Jimmy, thank you so much. I know, based on past years, that we'll talk about you this weekend, and you will be missed, my friend. Let me raise a wee glass to say thank you for your generosity. And Jimmy, thank you just for being here. It means a hell of a lot to me, you bastard. Helen Hamish is celebrating being a member for 53 months, saying sorry to be missing Glasgow Whisky Festival this time, but I'll see you in 2026. I look forward to it, Hamish. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of ourselves. until we see you in 2026. Ian Bruce is celebrating being a member for 30 months and saying, hopefully one day I can make Glasgow Whisky Festival. Enjoy, folks. We will do, Ian. It'd be brilliant to see you there sometime. Graham Young is saying, cheers, Roy, and enjoy every minute of the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend. Your passion for this fun is infectious. Cheers for the great white north. Graham Young, thank you so much, buddy. I know you've managed it here multiple times, and we'll see you again in the future. It's wonderful to have you participating tonight, my friend, and thank you for your positive words. Thank you all. I'm going to do my very, very best over the course of the coming weekend to just be as hospitable as possible and just let the whiskey guide us and have a fantastic, fantastic time celebrating all of the fantastic events that's lined up for us all over the course of the weekend. Some of you will see tomorrow at Sloan's in Glasgow. Wonderful lineup. I don't want to talk about it tonight because it's sealed. It's long sold out. The festival itself, the curry afterwards, of course, and then Sunday, the Aquavite Blind Challenge. Maybe one day I'll get to welcome you all there for these events. In the meantime, we'll raise a glass in your absence. Thank you for hanging out with me here tonight. Thank you for being a supporter and helping me build all of the things that we've achieved, whether it's connections, community, events, projects, initiatives, everything. It's done because it's possible because of the support from all of you every single week in, week out. I love it. I'll never, ever take it for granted. You're all very dearly loved. I look forward to seeing you back here again next week, where there's no doubt going to be new stories after Glasgow's Whisky Festival. Until then, Sláinte mhath.